morning, friends. Welcome back to A Step Back in Time. We're reading from the book, The Lilac Bush, and it is a book that was written, or account written by George Beard Coffman, and it is an autobiographical account of life in and around Waynesboro from 1758 to 1952. And we're going to start in where we left off last time. In April 1895, Charlie got back the 2 cents which had been cut from his hourly rate in 1893. Fanny pushed for an addition to the house and won. The part added was almost as large as the original house, making it L-shaped. The original had been built about 3 feet from the line on the north side. This new section was built right on the line, creating an offset which gave them a window looking out onto the street, both upstairs and down. The addition included 2 large bedrooms and a bathroom with no upstairs water or fixtures. The downstairs provided a nice dining room and a large kitchen with a pantry that had a small window. The pantry was Fanny's cold storage in the fall, winter, and spring. She regulated the temperature by raising or lowering the window, which made it a good place for leftovers, butter, pies, cakes, and a small supply of potatoes and apples. An old dough tray was stored there, but rarely used. There were also many shelves for kitchen utensils. The broom and dust rags were kept behind the door. The original house went through some changes. A much larger opening was cut between the front room and the old kitchen, making a front and back parlor. A new attic stairway went up from the back bedroom. The cellar steps in the old house were closed, making a closet, and a new set of stairs came up from the new cellar into the kitchen. Charlie and Fanny now had plenty of room for their growing family. 5 bedrooms, a front and back parlor, an open stairway to the second floor in the front hall, and a closed stairway between the dining room and the kitchen. The dining room was large with plenty of light. Charlie built cupboards in the wall toward the parlor for Fanny's good dishes, and there were 2 drawers for gloves, mittens, and mufflers, and a lower cupboard for toys. The kitchen was also large, the north wall being half used for the pantry left about 6 feet for cupboard space. Here Fanny kept the everyday dishes, glassware, and the cracker jar, while in the dry sink below she stored pots and pans and other everyday items. The dishes were washed here 3 times daily, although the sink with water was across the kitchen on the south side. The combination coal and wood stove was used for cooking as well as for heat. Baking and cooking in summer made the kitchen pretty warm at times. The dining room and back parlor had coal-burning stoves for heating only. From each stove, a pipe was run from the hot air collar to a register in the floor above, furnishing heat to some of the upstairs rooms. There was no provision for heat in the room to be used as the bathroom, which was entered from the back hall. Christmas 1895 arrived. Charlie had made Alan a wheelbarrow and gave it a coat of bright red paint. Ruth's present was a tin stove and Mabel's a small doll. The tree stood in the back parlor, and the light shining out of the stove through the isinglass and from the kerosene lamp cast odd shadows on the walls and brought out the colors on the ornaments and popcorn strings beautifully. The Public Reading Room Association was instituted this year. The reading room and library were in the Shively Building, Center Square. Common wire screen was first made around 1880, but its use was not widespread for many years. Flies were supposed to be good for you? Mosquito netting just could not do the job. Screen doors and window screens were now on sale in the hardware stores, as well as the screen material itself. Charlie made a screen door for the kitchen and one for the back hall door, and window screens wherever needed. He soon had the house equipped, but none was ever put on the front door. Street dirt and dust was pretty heavy at the time. In the Village Record, the local newspaper, a campaign had been started against the reckless driving of horses and riding of bicycles within the borough limits. This item gave an idea of the risk involved. Upton Gift while driving down Main Street on Saturday evening, allowed his lines to become entangled and his horse started to run at breakneck speed. In front of Dr. Benjamin Franz's residence, he collided with the iron fence, throwing the occupants out and demolishing the stick wagon. Nobody was hurt, but they were badly scared and the fence was knocked out of whack. Some of the local businesses changed hands and new ones began to arrive. F. Forthman took in D.L. Miller as a partner and operated under the name of Forthman and Miller. They advertised white pine and tar for colds and QT cream for rough hands. Menster and Clugston took over Dr. George Shively's drugstore and advertised Dr. James's soothing syrup cordial for your inward troubles and Chapatan for rough hands. Smith and Ernst were in the bakery and confection business. Val Smith sold dry goods, as did M.S. Kunkel. Geyser Brothers advertised as electricians, and J.C. Clugston operated distillery across the railroad on the Marsh Road. Mr. Shively opened a new business and called it a 5 and 10 cent store. A good old-fashioned remedy for indigestion is 1 ounce of soda, 1 ounce of cinnamon, and 1 ounce of salt. Mix together and take a half a teaspoonful dry before each meal. Cal Ray's saddle shop was situated on the northeast corner of the Diamond, and next, to the east, was Routson's butcher shop. H.C. Criswell was in the clothing business, as was his brother, A.L., but they were not partners. Each had their own store. Sam Dreyfus had arrived and opened a men's clothing store, which is in business today, or it was when the story was written. We had a new dentist, Dr. J.C. Criswell, and another doctor, A. Barr Snively, son of Dr. I.N. Snively, arrived. U.G. Stover was in the coal and lumber business and operated a planing mill, turning out boards and moldings for homes. Brenham and Smith opened a bookstore, and M.T. Brown took a partner in his business, Harry Miller. Smith and Ernst began selling ice cream, water, ice, and frozen custards. The Quincy School Board, north of town, had selected its teachers for the following 6-month term. Monthly salaries ranged from $29 to $35. Yankee Doodle was playing at the Waynesboro Academy of Music. Penmar Park on the mountain east of town was becoming a very popular resort. Excursions ran from Baltimore, York, Martinsburg, and Hagerstown. If you did not own a team, you could go in Wardaball's 2-horse hack. Many cottages were being constructed, and families spent the summer months there and at Blue Ridge Summit and Monterey. Charlie and Fanny's next-door neighbor, Mr. Brown, had a cottage, and each spring took a load of items they would need, spent the summer, and came back with a load in the fall. The park was owned by the Western Maryland Railroad. There were lookout towers at High Rock and at Mount Quirrock, which was within walking distance of the park. Glen Afton Springs was a pleasant spot to visit. You crossed the railroad on a bridge and went down a winding path, past a pumping station which supplied water to the park and trains. Blue Ridge Summit was a regular station, but they also stopped at Penmar for excursions and other special occasions. The Waynesboro Gas Company was getting into operation, but progress was slow. They planned to manufacture gas from coal. There were at least a dozen fraternal organizations functioning and 2 volunteer fire companies, an engine company and a hook and ladder company. They were housed in the first floor of the Academy of Music building on East Main Street. Orchardist J.A. Nicodemus was replacing every other row of peach trees with apple trees. In his opinion, apples would pay better in this region. In 1896, the American Manufacturing Company constructed 42 houses. Contractor J.H. Warheim, 39, and D.W. Hess, 45. W.H. Morrison had started a cab line using a nice, roomy vehicle drawn by 2 horses. His stand was in front of his store, and the cab could be called to any part of the town by telephone. Mr. Morrison also operated a livery stable, where 1-horse and 2-horse teams could be rented, and in season, sleighs. There were other liveries in operation, Foreman's, Wegley's, and Stoner's, and the hotel stables often had extra rigs on hand. Bicycle clubs and camps were being formed, and one group, male and female, pedaled their way from Waynesboro to Gettysburg. Charlie and Fanny needed some inside painting, and since Charlie was working long hours at the shop, he hired Ernest Minters to do the work. He whistled constantly while he worked. Mabel, just a little taught, spent enough time following him around that she learned to whistle. Waynesboro's centennial was at hand in 1897. The celebration began with a cannon's boom at dawn. The most magnificent day in Waynesboro's history, the Great Centennial, took place Wednesday and Thursday, September 1st and 2nd. Wednesday morning, clear and beautiful, dawned upon a century of progress of the thriving village of Waynesboro. Thousands thronged the town. The week's exercises were formally opened on Sunday morning by local ministers who preached historical sermons. On Wednesday at 6:30, the boom of cannon announced the dawn of Centennial Day. Church bells took up the refrain, factory whistles chimed in, and the air was split with noises of all kinds. A half hour of pandemonium prevailed, and then everyone prepared for the important feature of the day. The inflow began at 7 o'clock, and from that hour until noon, Waynesboro welcomed thousands upon thousands within its gates. Up and down Main Street they strolled, a merry, good-natured throng, pushing and crowding, yet never growling. There were a lot of dapper young fellows in handsome uniforms, and of course, there were lots of pretty girls who added to the attractiveness of the moving throng. The features of this morning was the dedication of the Soldiers' Memorial Monument in Burns Hill Cemetery. After a prayer by the Reverend F.F. Barner, pastor of Trinity Reformed Church, Miss Julia Jacobs pulled the cord holding together the national colors which draped the monument. Professor Charles B. Clayton of the Always There Hook and Ladder Company band played a very sweet solo, and then Judge John Stewart was introduced by Reverend T.C. McCarl. Professor Charles B. Clayton of the Always There Hook and Ladder Company band played a very sweet solo, and then Judge John Stewart was introduced by Reverend T.C. McCarl. The huge parade began about 2 p.m. with the Chief Marshal, Colonel John M. Wolfe, at the head. Governor D.B. The huge parade began about 2 p.m. with the Chief Marshal, Colonel John M. Wolfe, at the head. Governor D.H. Hastings of Pennsylvania spoke at the public square. The centennial was a streaming success from beginning to end, and we're going to stop there for the day. Join us again when we take up where we left off. We hope you've enjoyed where we've come so far. Once we're done, if you'd like to check this book out from the library, it is available. So until we see you next time, please read, stop in at the library. We'd love to see you. Have a wonderful day.